Hello, hello, hello. What ho? Welcome back to another exciting adventure of Piensamientos, viejo. Soy Travieso Viejo, tu maestro. And oh my heads are gonna roll. I mean, I just don't get this, right? If I were on the phone right now, I wouldn't lose connection with anybody. Like if I were on the phone, there would be no loss of connection. That means there should be no loss of no, Travis, you don't understand because you're traveling right now and then it's like cell tower to cell tower and the bandwidth blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, no, I get that. You just have to like it's all a matter of control, right? They stifle your connectivity, right? I understood this years ago when I was in California and bought a Garmin GPS. All right? GPS, right? Satellite, right? And my grandparents' house was a couple of miles in foothills of California, and you have no cell coverage, zero cell coverage. Like at about a quarter mile, no lie, about a quarter mile, maybe a third of a mile. You look, hey ma, yeah, and gone. She's like drops off, no phone, right? No phone, zero phone, and yet my GPS still works. Do you understand that? If they can send you a GPS signal, if they can send you, oh well, yeah, but GPS is a one-way, only one-way travel, and I mean, think about what you're saying. You're sending a signal. If you get a signal to me, you can get another signal to me. Right? Anyway, I get into the foothills and lose the signal, but I still have GPS, and my Garmin satellite GPS has connection. When I get to my grandparents' house, I turn on my Garmin and I've got my GPS. So they can get you coverage everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, you can have coverage. So why don't you? Because they siphon, they limit, right? Ugh. Okay. Usa, right? I was just going to start reflecting on a bit of where I was. I was just jamming out to my spiritual songs. Michael Franti has got this amazing song. Don't give up, you just keep on fighting. I don't remember, I don't know what the name of the song is, but anyway, it's a very, very, it's anthemic. It's Smurf Dam anthemic. That means an anthem, it's epic, right? It's like if you had these tribal drums and just people dancing around. Like me, I'd have to sit down in a chair because I can get groovy in a chair, you know what I'm saying? I can do that. But you get me on the dance floor and I'm like Elaine Bennett. I have no rhythm whatsoever. But I wanted to just start expressing my existence, right? I exist. Does anybody notice me? I exist. A funny story. This weekend was amazing. I went to Ocean City, Maryland, and just spent more money than I needed to. And it wasn't like, yeah, basically I worked to spend, right? I made no money this weekend because I spent it all because I had to pay for the Airbnb. I didn't have to pay for my food, but gosh darn it, gee willikers, I wanted to just enjoy myself. So I did. Bought myself some drinks. I did not kiss myself. I did not, that's where it stopped. I keep it like, look, we only get the first base on the, Anyway, had amazing drinks, amazing food, amazing people, bartenders, mixologists. Last one I met, Taylor. She made me some sort of a modification of an old fashioned, which I'd never had before, as far as I can remember. And the old fashions aren't that complicated as far as I know, so it wasn't like a very hard mixology quest for her, but she was she was really excited. The 2 cinnamon sticks. So I took a couple drafts, and tried to get the palate. The maraschino cherry was probably a little bit too strong for me. I'm not a real big fan of the maraschino cherries, but whatever. So for those of you who might not know, I have a Instagram trend that I'm trying to pop off. It's called Mixology Quest, hashtag Mixology Quest, all one word. And so I challenged the bartenders to create drinks that don't exist, right? And my very first Mixology Quest, Steven, took 2 drinks, combined them. Ooh, gin too. I got to see if he has McClintock gin. Everybody out there, McClintock gin is absolutely just ambrosia. Ambrosia. It is delish. Delish. I can't even. It's so good. And so Steven took 2 drinks that existed and then just created something out of them, and it was amazing. And I named it Third Eye Open. That was after my spiritual transformation, April 29th, 2024. So then I named Taylor's concoction Taylor's Sin, and it was C-I-N for cinnamon, Taylor's Sin. And I love it because I think she sinned against me by the fact that she just slightly modified an old fashioned. But what do I know? But at the same time, it's a compliment to her as well. And she was like, I'm going to be on cloud 9 for like 3 days. So made her day. And you can check that out on my Instagram. But so just amazing people. And I was going to tell you this one story. I had four scantily clad, bikini clad, I don't know, I guess they were bachelorette partiers, and they had to be in their 30s, right? So these parties of people who are getting married are getting later and later in their lives. So you'd expect like somebody's getting married young, but no, these were 30 somethings at least. And we were having a great time. Like, it was a total, they were very enthusiastic about me as a driver, and the atmosphere and the energy was just great. And what do we say? How do we transition into this into a grading system? I can't remember. I don't remember how I transitioned into this, but I said something about the fact like the girl in the front, the woman in the front, I think her name was Jessica, and she's just complimenting my vibe and whatnot, and I said, well, I'd like to feel like this, like, vibe is a 10, and my attractiveness is like a 3. My physical attractiveness is like a 3. She's like, oh, no, you're not a 3. And I was waiting for it. And she's like, you're a 7. I'm like, that's great. A 7. 7's good. 7 is awesome. I'll take a 7, I guess. That's a C. That's a C, right? Oh, man. So it was hilarious, But anyway, yeah, I am really, honestly, going to be busting my ass to try to find a way to seasonally exist down there right now in the next week, because they're going to constantly have until into October fishing tournaments, Jeep Week. What else was there? Other things. Anyway, plenty of business, and I was able to make as much as I do if I were working in Baltimore, except I'm on Ocean City, or I'm in Ocean City on an island with people who are just laid back, carefree, and open to just positivity. So it was just a great couple of days, and I had a couple of interesting conversations. Have I been here before? I have. Oh, I used to come down here when I was a truck driver. Okay. It's been a few years since I've been here. So I had this family host me, and they were Mennonite, which means that they're relatively very traditional in terms of even Christianity. You know, the Bible is literal and whatnot. And I had 3 young children, Anna, and then John, and then Victor. And I think that they were all under. I don't know how Anna was hard to read because she was a bit developed, still very young looking. So I was like, are you 12 yet? Anyway, she was very young, but she looked developed. And she was very, each of these children had their own, I know you know this, right? Everybody's different, right? But it's just really interesting to see these two. Victor was like a little puppy around me. Like I would be in the bedroom with the door open, you know, because it was their house, and he would be standing like off, but in the doorway with a visual of me, right? Like he's watching me, like he's looking at me, you know. And he and I had some really nice conversations. And he is big into Blender, which is a 3D rendering program. And he said, you want to see what I rendered? And I'm like, yeah, show me what you rendered. It was a space shuttle, right? This kid is so enamored with space. And we got talking about the moon, and he's talking about the orbit of the satellite around the Earth, and the Earth is satelliting around the sun. You know, this kid's homeschooled and co-opted, and, you know, it doesn't matter what your homeschooling practice is. If you use government educational books, you're giving your children a government public education, ultimately, right? I mean, I would think that if I were to do things over again, relatively speaking, like at what level are you going to lower your base for where you're going to introduce your children to understanding the world, right? Because there's no escaping influencing your children to understand and know and believe certain things. You have to tell them things that they don't have an experience for, that they have to take your word for. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's ultimately people who homeschool can fall into the same indoctrination traps, right? You just tell your child this is the way it is, just believe what I'm telling you. So my point is that even if you try to homeschool your children and say, oh, we're not going to let our children be influenced by the government rhetoric and education and indoctrination. I've got to sneeze. That's how my grandfather used to sneeze. Shoot, Artie. Yeah, history, economics, like you can't escape. Like you. I'm guessing I was between cell towers on that one. Right? Alright, it's not buffering now. I was waiting because sometimes it'll buffer back into non-existence, so so I was having this conversation, and this kid, he's like 8-9 years old, very precocious, very intelligent, very ADHD, which I think is a sign of intelligence. Of course I do, because I'm ADHD and I think I'm very, very intelligent. But all of that to say is his mind was just constantly just on, you know, everywhere. And so they're homeschooling, but this is my point. They're homeschooling their kid because they don't want public education, blah, blah, blah. And yet he knows science, he knows the science fiction of space better than I do, practically, you know, kicking all this information out. Oh, this. And what I would try to do, because I don't believe anything that we have been told about space or anything like that, I would say to him, that's what they tell us. That's what they tell us. You know, I just wanted to affirm that he was saying what he believed, and then giving him a little bit of a contrary, like, cockeyed look at him, like, yeah, that's the story. But so he was very, I guess the word again to just say is precocious. And then his brother John was very, and again, I think all of these children were intelligent, but he was very quiet, and yet at times he was very extroverted, pretty much more with his siblings than with me per se. But I had conversations, and then Anna was a little bit of both, right? She was precocious, but she was quiet. And I just thought that there was a beautiful family. But the great story about them too is that the mother is from one of those Eastern Bloc countries that end in stan, like right around Turkey. And she is, according to her, she is the first person in her communal tribal expression to Christianity back in the early 90s when the Iron Curtain came down. So we had a little chat about my experience at Moody Bible Institute, because I was there going to get my my bachelor's early 90s when the wall came down. And no, the wall came down in 89, right? When the Iron Curtain hubbub at Moody Bible Institute was, you know, oh, God is opening the Eastern Bloc, and, you know, now we're going to be able to take the gospel in. And so it just, as a matter of fact, I would say, and she believes that because of that, you know, because of the evidence of God, she heard about the gospel. And so just a really interesting conversation and a tie back for me, because again, I was all gung-ho, like, oh, to the mission field, I could go to the mission field and take the gospel to people who've never heard, which I never did at that point. But anyway, the reason why I started to do this recording was because I was rocking out to the Michael Franti song, "Don't Give Up, you just keep on fighting." And it's just this mantra: don't give up, you just keep on fighting. Don't give up, you just keep on fighting. Don't give up, you just keep on fighting, even when your eyes are crying. And then it talks about I'll be by your side, and if you stay with me, I will stay with you for a brighter day. Man, oh man, it's just this positivity, you know, that I did not have as a Christian. Oh, that's because you weren't born again, Trav-EL. The Bible, the good book says, you know, unless a man is born from water, you cannot see the kingdom of God. So if you didn't have the joy of the Lord before, you know, you just weren't born of the Spirit. Oh, okay. I mean, that's fair enough. But I don't have the Spirit now, and I'm more joyful. You see that doesn't work, right? So what's interesting, now I could be reading between the lines on this, but I think that I'm correct. One of the conversations that we had around the island at the house, where they have a, you know, it's an bar stools and whatnot. It's not a bar because they were Mennonite, but I mean, it was a bar top that they used like a everything table. What was there? Was it just pure couch space? I think it was just pure couch space. Anyway, that's where we were all And the wife says to me, and I can't remember her name because it was Kazakhstanish something, but she asked me, so if you went to Moody Bible Institute and you had a something coming. If you went to Moody Bible Institute and you have a master's degree, why aren't you in the pastoral ministry anymore? So then we went down that road, and at one point, the Terry is the father. He says, so the Bible's not the Word of God, right? So for him, the Bible is the Word of God, and it's literal. And, like, what do you do in that situation? Because, all of the kids are sitting there listening, and I don't want to preach at them, right? I don't want it to be like this, I have a soapbox opportunity. That's not my role. But we're having a conversation. So he and I had a few back and forths of yeah buts, but it was very cordial. It was very mature, so that the children can see two men who disagree with each other and are not arguing, right? That is a step of maturity on sides. So I can appreciate the fact that he didn't lose his cool, although he exposed, he showed his hand a little bit, by saying, oh, so the Bible's not the Word of God. Anyway, I found it interesting that when we sat down for breakfast, that when he was blessing the food, he countered two of my points of my perspective in his prayer. If you understand what I mean. So I basically talked about my transition away from Christianity because of my commitment to science, right? This is the whole I somebody here. Are you still here, whoever you are? What's going on, FE Nation? Hey. How's the audio? Is the audio okay? Is everything okay with it? You were just give me a 5x5 or a sound of my voice connection first. Please make sure that you are subscribed. If you are, hit that bell. If you have, smash that Fonzarelli, hit that like, and then jump down and make comments. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so in my explanation of why I am not a Christian any longer, he made it a point to will to power. That is, he is powering through and expressing his perspective to influence the will of his children by praying a correction on my standing in their eyes. Basically, he gave thanks to God for God's revelation that a man can only be in the kingdom if he is born of the Spirit and water, thereby revealing to his children that I'm not a part of the kingdom, nor was I ever, because I didn't have the Spirit and I wasn't born of water. If I'm making myself clear, let me see if I can make myself a little more clear. I think I'm confusing myself. Not really, but if you're not familiar with this kind of theological banter, it might not make sense. In Christianity, there is a phrase called once saved, always saved, right? If you are saved, you will never go back to being you'll never go back to being an atheist or whatever, right? And then if you do, well, never saved. Okay? So basically, his perspective was, even though I went to Moody Bible Institute and got a bachelor's degree, and even though I went to seminary and got a master's degree, and even though at those times in my existence, I was pursuing righteousness, I was pursuing holiness as I understood it as a Christian, but I wasn't saved. Why? Because I'm not saved now. Because if I had then, I'd still be saved. Like, I'd still be a Christian today. Like, you understand what I mean? So he was basically telling his children, this man was never a Christian because he's not one now. We know that when whoever is born of spirit and born of the water is in the kingdom, and once you're in the kingdom, you don't leave. You don't get out. You don't lose your salvation. Does that make sense? And then he addressed my perspective on science, right? Empiricism. And I just thought it was interesting. I mean, look, I could be reading between the lines, but I don't think I am. You know what I mean? Because it happened right after we had that massive conversation, and he chose 2 points to correct. So that was one of the things that we were instructed never to do as pastors. You never address personal issues in prayers, right? You don't use prayer. Going to pray for the service, right? Everybody are like, let's bow our heads and pray and ask the Lord's blessing. Like, you don't make the prayer a sermon. Just ask for God's blessing. You give him acknowledgement, you give him adoration and praise and worship, but you don't use the prayer as a platform for you to put out your agenda. That's the point. Which, is all of a move anyway. I mean, you can do that if you want. I know plenty of people that do that. Absolutely. tons of times in church where the pastors, for like 5 minutes, you're like, oh my God, just say amen and get on with it. Like, is this the sermon? Did you start the sermon already? Because this feels like a sermon. So I still am trying to work through expressing my position and my perspective as a former Christian. Oh, you were never a Christian, Travis. Okay, I understand your philosophy. That's your opinion. However, I think that I have a unique perspective. I'm really trying to think about, and anybody, if you're listening to this and you come back to this or whatever, if you know of anyone who used to be a Christian and is no longer a Christian, have expressed their story, because I'm not antagonistic to anyone's story, anyone's journey, anyone's press. That's your story. That's your progress. That's your journey. However, I do have a lot to say against the system if you exist, because that system is a construct for your mind. And yet at the same time, everything that we like I'm driving right now, I am operating within a system, a construct. I'm on the right side of the road. I'm in left lane. You know what I mean? Like, there are rules. There are rules. Like, I'm not going to go driving in cross traffic. Right? There are rules to reality. This is not a simulation. Not a simulation. This is real. But it's my that were I to end my existence here by accident or intentionally, and the lights were to go out, I would just simply respawn. So this is a simulation, but it is. Thanks for the like and thanks for the share. Oh, not that Cher? I can feel something inside me say, really don't think it's strong enough. Oh, I'm just killing time because I wasn't sure if I was going to start buffering again. We have a construct, and I'm not against your story. I'm not against, but I am against the construct per se, because wherever you are as a religious, spiritual person, perhaps in a religious, spiritual expression called Christianity or Catholicism or being whatever it is, wherever you find yourself, you are given certain dogmatic principles that direct the way that you operate, direct the way that you think, direct the way that you behave, right? In spirituality, there's a mantra that says, wherever your attention goes, there your energy flows. I think it's very profound and yet very mundane at the same time. If you find yourself consumed with a thought of the past or an anticipation of the future, that's where your energy and your attention focus. So where do you want your energy and your attention to focus? So if you think that certain thoughts are inappropriate, certain words, certain behaviors are inappropriate, if you think that way, then that typically is going to work itself out in the way that you also then behave and present yourself to other people. For instance, just as a sidebar, when I'm driving by myself, I constantly talk to other drivers like, oh, like, why did you do that? Like, why? Yeah, you're gonna be the first one to the stop sign there, speed racer. You know what I mean? But when I have people in the car with me, I don't say those things. Why? Because I have self-control, right? So that just shows that I can control myself even when I'm by myself. I don't have to say those things out loud. And another point, in fact, is then I usually am, when I'm with friends who are adults, I will just freely swear left and right. F-bomb this, GD that, just everywhere. But I did none of that with this family. Zero. And a couple of times when I had to put the governor on, and mentally I'm like, okay, I can't, I want to be expressing myself, and I'm like, smurfing A, man, or whatever. I didn't do any of that. That just goes to show that you control every single time. You can control yourself every single time. And I'm just kind of coming back around. The way that you behave, the way that I behave, is 110% the result of what you understand about reality. Whether or not it's a valid understanding, right? Whatever it is, it's a construct that affects your existence. I love the movie The Matrix over and over again. Morpheus drops the truth bomb. The Matrix is everywhere. It's everywhere you go. It's in the air that you breathe. It's in the water that you drink. It's in the food that you consume. It's in the car that you drive. It's a job. He's like, you're in the Matrix. It's all around you. You can't escape it. When you go to work, you feel it. When you go to church, when you pay your taxes, those are all combined. Work, church, taxes. Work, church, taxes. Who told you work? Why do you go to work? It depends on what you believe, what you understand, what you know. Who told you have to go to church? Right? My dad and his wife, I don't even think they've been to church in 20 some odd years, but they still think that they're Christians. Not according to a lot of people, they're not. Why? Because you don't go to church. Oh, we don't have to go to church. We just have a relationship with God one-on-one. Like, okay, I get that idea, but don't call yourself a Christian, because that's not what Christianity is. Like, Christianity is community, right? If you don't belong to that community, you don't, So there's certain dogma, there's certain principles. Even that, what I was just saying right there, even what I was just saying about the idea of going to church, that's a dogmatic principle. That is a teaching of the church, right? The church is, God has ordained that his grace and his mercy is expressed through what are called sacraments. Sacraments are holy little moments. Marriage is sacramental, but it's not a sacrament in Protestant. It is in Catholicism. I don't know if it is in Eastern Orthodoxy, but I'm sure it probably would be. But you even see how the flexibility of the dogma is there. With the Catholic Church, they have many sacraments. But in Christianity, in Protestantism, there's really just two sacraments, baptism and the Eucharist, or the Lord's Supper. What I say is that you can't experience baptism, you can't experience the Lord's Supper unless you're a part of unity. You understand what I'm saying? I don't mind, right? I don't mind it at this point. But you just realize that you're not a typical Christian. So going back to what I was saying before, because that's really where I was going to try to go, is try to express my perspective as a former Christian. Because I am expressing myself in my existence right now the way I wanted to be a Christian when I was a Christian. Like, I never loved my life. I never loved life. I never had so much hope and joy and enthusiasm and vigor and vibrancy as I do right now outside of Christianity. I had to leave Christianity to become more realized. And I find that ironic, don't you think? And so I want to offer up my perspective to anybody who's out there who was like maybe on the fence or doesn't like. I want to give you an honest representation of what I think is worth taking into consideration, right? All you have to do is just consider what I'm saying. I don't need you to tell me, oh, you're right. I don't need you to say that. That's not my point. I don't want to be correct. I just want to be understood. And if my understanding of something is incorrect, and you have your own perspective, or you have your insight, or you have your experience, or you have your convictions, tell me what they are. And then if I take what you and I take what I have, and I can bring them together and have some syncopation, then I've just now evolved. And I the same from you. Just take what I'm saying into consideration. And then the rest is organic for you. But the one thing that I want to say is this, I guess. I think you said that like 10 times already, Trav-EL. You've already said the one thing that you want to say, and you're just saying things. Well, love me. Is that the positivity of spirituality is that everything that you seek, you already have. Okay? Everything you seek, you already have. You just have to change the way that you understand yourself, like I had to as a former where the pessimism of human nature is you aren't good. You are a sinner. There is something drastically wrong with you. Now, the way that I would understand that now is that it's not that there's something wrong with you, it's that your human nature, your human physiology is complicated, and you have to be able to navigate the parameters of your own existence. Like, who are you? You know? What are you? Where are you? Why are you? How are you? So you have that ancient anecdote, grandfather or the wise elder is speaking to a child, and the elder says, there are two wolves within you. You have two wolves within you. One is black, one is white. I had the circle of death and then the reconnect, so I'm just waiting to see if it pops up again. So I don't want to keep talking if it's going to get cut off, but it looks like it's going to be all right until it doesn't. Hello, newcomer. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the show. Travel Mateus here, your host. So the idea again is the anecdote from the elder to the child that you have two wolves within you. One red, one blue, one white, one black, whatever it is. And they are both you. And one is less inclined to virtue, and one is more inclined to vice, positive and negative, right? And the child asks the elder, which wolf wins? And the elder wisely says, whichever one you feed. It's all you. It's all you. Everything about you is 100% dependent upon your character. And that is only expressed by you. So how do you express yourself on a daily basis? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. Right? Fruit of the pneuma, the fruit of the Spirit. In my tradition in Christianity, a person who is not a Christian, a person who is either an atheist or an agnostic or a pagan, a heathen, whatever, they cannot do any good. Because there is a depravity within them. They are deprived of virtue. Right? I mean, that's a mental construct. And then you have to have all of these qualifications of dogma come in. Where you say, well, you know, oh, well, people can do good things, like, well, you know, you can let someone cut in front of you, or you can open the door. Those are, you can do that, like, but that doesn't do anything for God. God's not impressed with it. It's like, so I can do good things. So I am able to change myself, right? So the whole thing is like, you are a sinner, you're selfish, you don't have patience. The only way that you're going to get patience, the only way that you're going to have these virtues expressed is if you have the Spirit of God. And yet, people who have the Spirit of God, allegedly, are the most sourpuss-faced people in the world. Miserable people, no joy. So then how does that work? then you have all of these qualifications, right? So for me, my experience was I was a T crosser. I was an I daughter. That is, what I'm wired that those points of doctrine were important to me. I needed to know what I believed. I needed to know why, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, because that's the way I am now in this life as well, understanding the nature of the world in which I exist, right? So that's still an aspect of me. I still want to understand these things. It's just now I'm not a self-righteous Pharisee to a certain extent, right? Whereas if I look at you and you're not like me, then I'm no longer, and that was a part of who I was before. I was judgmental. But not everyone in Christianity is that way. I don't want to paint that, there are plenty of people who know what they know and understand dogma and all that kind of stuff. They are lovely, beautiful people who love people. And I had to work through my psychosis, right, to get to the point to where I love people more than I love myself. And I think that's a positive expression of where I'm at right now. But I had to leave Christianity to get to that place. And, there's no, I don't think. Yeah, it would have to be a completely different Christianity for me to go back to a church. If you're talking about Christianity, like a way a lot of people think today, like, oh, we're in the end times, right? The Bible is still relevant today because it has predicted the times in which we find ourselves. And it's my opinion that is not anywhere close to the story of the Bible. Right? So the way that I read the Bible right now is 180 degrees in the opposite direction to way the family that I was staying with this weekend, or any other traditional family, or Christians. Like, we do not understand the Bible the same way. And there's no way for your opinion of the Bible and my opinion of the Bible to be correct. That's just not the way the world works. An oak tree is not a poplar tree. You cannot, and if you combine them both, then it's no longer an oak and it's no longer a poplar, it's now a poploak, or whatever. You're a hybrid. And I don't have any problems with those hybrids anymore, Like, those hybrids are beautiful. And I'm a hybrid. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything comes around and goes around, including things that we learn. So I've thought, a number of times that I've had original ideas. Well, they are original to me as I express them. But I don't think that they're original in the fact that they've never existed anywhere. No one else has thought these things. However, I will say this about my investigation, that as far as to French science books into English, like, I would love for a previous physics book on air to describe the way I do. However, if there exists, let me have to say it this way. However, I don't think there exists anyone who expresses their opinion of what a mirage is the way that I do. And it's a bit abstract, but if you'll bear with me, I'll try the best I can while I'm driving to give you a picture of what I believe the physics of a mirage are. Science tells us through Andrew Thomas Young article that he wrote with Eric Frappa. I have not been able to get a hold of Eric Frappa. I've emailed him numerous times. Just the unfortunate reality of these specialized experts in their field where I can't get a hold of anybody. And so in this article, and Andrew Thomas Young co-wrote, they make the scientific statement that a mirage is a vertical 90-degree image, okay? Which puts it more in a two-dimensional concept, okay? So if you have y-axis, which is the parallel horizontal, right? You're going to draw a parallel line across the middle of your screen. That's the y-axis. And then if you dissect that or bisect that line with a vertical Z line, right? So now you have a perpendicular. Those are two axes, right? You have the horizontal and you have the vertical. That is the concept of the mirage. It is a Z-axis reference. It's straight up and down. Okay? That's not my interpretation of what I've seen for the past 6 years. And as far as I know, I've never seen any science talk about a mirage the way I talk about a mirage, which to me is very telling. It's very significant, because either I'm 100% incorrect, which is perfectly fine, because again, I don't want to be correct, I just want to be understood. And the science that I've read doesn't ever correct. You know, it's not like it says, back in the early times of the research into atmospheric refraction and atmospheric gradients, in the early interpretation of this field of study, the previous scientists used to think that mirages were along the x-axis. So now we're bringing in depth, okay? So now we have 3 dimensions. We have width, we have height, and we have depth. That's 3 dimensions. The science of mirage doesn't have depth. It only has Z. It's just vertical, straight up and down. But there's no alternative to that option. They don't talk about how they moved away from that based on scientific research. Well, we used to believe that, or we used to think that mirages were presented along the x-axis, along the first-person viewer, in terms of what we would consider the depth of what you're looking at. Okay? I know that this is probably really abstract, so bear with me. But again, this is part of my working out in my head. This is a beautiful day. Working out in my head how to say what I need to say, because this is important for the research that is out there. So my original idea that is absolutely 100% original, like it's never been stated, it's not in any science book right now, either to be corrected or to be affirmed. It doesn't. I'm the only one saying this. This thought is original with me. You have 3 axes. You have depth, you have width, and then you have height, okay? When you have a mirage, no, let me start out big. Let me back up. You have depth, you have width, and then you have height. Ooh, well, that's interesting, right? In the name of the Father, of the Spirit, and the Son. That's interesting. Where was I? Okay. If you go out to the open space where you're going to take photographs distance, as you're standing there on your own, straight up and down, vertical to the ground, with your eyeballs gimbaling all over the place, right? You know, like I'm rocking my head back and forth, but my eyes are staying straight. Like, you know what I mean? Like your eyeballs are where they get the idea for a gimbal, right? So if you're looking straight ahead with no other mechanism but your eye, you see the world in 3 dimensions. You see straight ahead of you, miles and miles and miles. That's depth. And then you have targets in the distance that have height. And those targets also have size, or what we would say is the width, right? So you have height, width, and depth. So now as you're looking out into the distance, and there's no mirage, you're just looking over distance. It's all 3 dimensions. Now enters the mirage. You're still looking over the same topographical area. You haven't moved. It's a different day, but the conditions of the day are such that now there's a mirage. What has changed? Well, first of all, you have a limitation to how far you can see, because the mirage will obstruct the distance. Anything that finds itself within that degree in your visual space which exists. If there is something in the distance within that field of view, it will be completely obstructed by the mirage, unless it has height to it. If it has height to it, then you will see that thing above the mirage. Okay? So as you're looking at, and again, I've done videos on this, you have to have a control image. The control image is where you have a full corridor, a full visual corridor with no obstruction visually, with no occultation or obstruction. So then if you bring in a mirage and you're looking down that same corridor, it is not going to look the same. And so then you have to then describe what you're seeing and explain what's happening. And you don't need math to do it. You do not need math at all to explain or describe what you're seeing. You can do that yourself with your own words. So there are certain elements to a mirage that you need to take into consideration. You have what is called the vanishing line. Okay? So let's say, for instance, on a very clear day, when you have your control image and there is a house in the distance and you can see the house. You can see the house all the way down to the ground. I can show you this with my observations. Okay? You can see the roof, you can see the floor. The house is fully in view. I am just really tempted, I'm distracted, tempted to go to, look, there's all these tanker ships out. There's 1, 2, 3. I'm going over the Chesapeake Bay right now on the Bay Bridge going into Annapolis, Maryland. And it looks like it's just an amazingly beautiful day on the water. And if I can read my, I don't know, it looks like it looks like it would be a nice clear day. So there's 4 tanker ships, 1, 3, 4, these massive tanker ships. Wow. I might stop at North Point State Park and see what I can see. All right. going back to the vanishing line of the mirage. If I have a full view of the house, there's no mirage. But if I go back on another day and there's a mirage, that mirage will bisect the house at a particular point. And depending on the index of refraction, it could happen only at the bottom floor, it could happen at the second floor, it could happen even in the middle of the house or closer. Like, it could be a severe gradation of the image of the mirage. However, my point is that when you have the image of the house with no mirage, and then you have an image of the house with a mirage, wherever the mirage begins, that's called the vanishing line. Why? Because the rest of the house vanishes behind the mirage. The house is still there, right? Because I can show you the field of view with no mirage. Look, there's the house. It's still there. So now you can see the roof, you can see the first floor, and then the mirage kicks in. At that part, that's your y-axis. That's your y-axis. Okay? Now, as you go below the mirage into the image of the mirage, that is the x-axis. That is now depth, because the mirage begins halfway through the house, and then the mirage ends somewhere in your proximity. See how I'm doing that with my hand? Like, the mirage comes to you over the surface you are looking. That is not the way science describes a mirage. And yet, that's scientific smurfdom fact. I could demonstrate that all day long. All day long. And so can others. Now that I've talked about it, another channel, his name is Paul. His channel name is Plain Reality. And he's got fantastic data. All right, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I'm like rambling, lost. I probably lost all of you guys because this is such an abstract concept. So going back to the positivity of spirituality, everything that you seek, you already have, okay? So I wish that I could have sat down philosophically with each of these children, or all three together, you know, and just poured into them that everything that they will be, they have within them right now. And to then help them understand that an acorn that is an oak tree in gestation, you know, in genetically immature, to a degree of immaturity, an acorn is an immature oak tree, right? But everything the oak tree is in the acorn. And that's you, and that's me. So then it becomes an issue of sentience, right? You have awareness, like, who am I? Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? No, that's not the question. The question is not what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be now? Be that. What do you want to do right now? Do that. You have everything you need. Do you want to be loving? Be loving. Oh, but I have to be saved by Jesus Christ through the power of the Spirit. No, you don't. No, you don't. Do you know how many lovely non-Christians there are? Do you know how many people love people more than Christians love people? Lots. You don't need this magic spirit to give you the ability. But that's the way I thought. That's the way I believed. that shaped my mind. I would have to ask God to give me, in prayer right now, let us bow our heads. We are going to ask God to give us those things for which we are going to ask God to do for us those things which we cannot do for ourselves. No. Do all things through yourself. You can do all things through yourself. There's no need to appeal to this spirit. I don't have any evidence of a divine spirit. Do you? I mean, I look. There was a conversation where this father from this past weekend, he was appealing to knowledge that he had no evidence for. But I didn't challenge him in front of his children. I did not do that. I just simply acknowledged what he said, and then tried to perhaps say something that would be just taken into consideration. One of the things that he talked about was sentience, because we were talking about existence, and he said, because he had a computer set up, and he's like, that computer is just a computer. It's not alive. It doesn't have a spirit. It doesn't have a soul, right? He was appealing to a spiritual aspect of humanity. The computer, he's like, AI will never be human, right? Because it doesn't have a soul. You're not going to hurt computer's feelings. You scream at the computer because it's dragging along like I do. The computer's not going to cry. The computer, it doesn't have emotion, have feelings, right? But you do. So there's a non-physical aspect of your existence. And I didn't challenge his assumptions by saying, why are you using this word spirit? Like, who told you to use the word? Like, I can't show you my spirit. Can you show me your spirit? Can you show me this thing? Well, no, you have emotions. I'm like, okay, that's an emotion. That's not that doesn't, how many emotions do I have? Do I have an anger spirit? Do I have a joy spirit? Do I have a gentle spirit? You know what I'm saying? Like, are those all, if you think about it this way, right? In Christianity, there are, when you talk about systematic theology of concepts that the Bible talks about. We're talking about mankind, right? If we're going to talk about mankind, what is man? And there are two primary ways to divide man. He is physical and spiritual. But even within that, there are three divisions, because we are described as, or read that the audience, Paul, for instance, Paul is writing to his audience, and he says something about the Lord be with your spirit, or he'll mention the soul, and he'll mention the body, right? So you have the soma, which is the body, you have the suke, which is the soul, and you have the pneuma, which is the spirit. So now there are three aspects of humanity: physical body, soul, and spirit. But what is the soul? What is the spirit? How do you differentiate them? What is that? So I have a soul and a spirit. So that means I have two different metaphysical things. Like if I die, then two things go boop, boop, and there's my soul and there's my spirit. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like Christian dogma. Did the soul become a physical entity that's like a ghost or something? You know what I mean? So one of the things that Jesus says is the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? But only one of those things is a metaphysical entity, your soul. Well, why do you say that? Why isn't the heart its own metaphysical entity, separate from the soul? You kill yourself. It's like the expressions in the cartoon Inside Out, right? Where you have the personification of this little girl's emotions: anger, joy, sadness. They're all individual entities on their own. You get what I'm saying? There's no reason when Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength, there's no reason to separate one of those and say that's its own entity separate from your physical body. If you say that about the soul, which is just suke, then why don't you say that about the heart, which is cardia, right? And the mind, which is nous. And then strength, which is probably chronton, right? Power, strength. I don't know, am I making sense? You would then have to be a five-fold entity. Body, spirit, heart, soul, mind, strength. 6. You're now 6. You get what I'm saying? There's no reason. It's all philosophical. It's all philosophical. But Terry went to tell me that I am both physical and spiritual, and my spiritual side is like a separate aspect of me. It's like the I don't know, because we didn't get into unpacking it, but what I said to him was, well, I understand what you're saying, but the only thing that I understand right now is that I am me. I am physical. I can snap my fingers. I can breathe. And then I have thoughts. And then I have emotions. Those are just physical expressions if I allow them to be, right? I can have a joyful face. I can have a serious face. I can have a sad face, an angry face. But those are physical expressions of something that is not tangible. Like I can't show you anger. Like I can't go, here's anger, here's love. So going back to what I was saying before, if I didn't finish my thought, Terry took it upon himself to correct his children's understanding of me during a prayer. So he basically discounted everything that I said because I was not a part of the kingdom of God anymore, or I wasn't ever. Because we all know, as he prayed, as Terry prayed, we thank you, Lord, that a man can only enter the kingdom by the Spirit and by and by water. Like, why would you say that? You know what I mean? You're directly addressing me in front of your children in a passive aggressive way. I'm just going to call it. This is what it is. That's what he did. And then he went on to correct my scientific perspective of just knowing what physically observe and experience, by affirming the fact that we have a spirit and this, that. It was just really interesting. Like I said, I mean, I could be wrong, but I would take a kick to both shins with pointy boots that I'm not. And I wasn't angry. I'm like, I get it. I know why you're doing it. That's whatever. Okay. You know? So, a needle pulling thread. I am just more inspired by understanding that I have all that I need to become more than I am. I have more than I need to become. No. How did I say that? I have more than I need to become. No. What? I liked what I said, but now I can't remember what I said. Everything I wish to become, I have within me. That's not great. I'm going to have to go back to wherever this part was because I said it better a second ago. You have all that you need to, I want to say become like 3 times. You have all that you need to become. Wow, I'm totally freaking blanking. Anyway, that kind of self-empowerment is important. That's what I wish I, could give to anyone, to understand all that you wish to become. You have everything you need. You have everything you need that you wish to become. Everything you wish to become, you have all that you need to become everything you wish. Something like that. You have everything you need to become everything you wish. You have everything you need that you wish to become. And the beauty of that is that it's always in an organic development of existence. As everyone you meet becomes, they leave an imprint on you to a certain degree that you might incorporate into your existence. Like, say for instance, you go to a dinner party and someone says something that you had never thought of before. Okay? Someone says something that you've never thought of before, and then you go home and think, and you change your mind based on what that person said. Or you look into something that person said, and you see what they said, and you see what you think, and then you change your mind. That is still the direct result of everything that you are in that moment, and you bring about change because of input from an outside source. I think that's the beauty of, man, it's a gorgeous day right now. I think that's the beauty of the human experience, right? That's why I can't fault Radiohead for apparently sampling The Loving Spoonful, right? All I need is the air that I breathe sometimes. All I need is the air that I breathe. Like, the melody of that song is found in a song nearly 30 years later in Radiohead, Creep. And so The Loving Spoonful sued Radiohead for sampling and not giving credit to them. And it's like, you guys didn't even do that. You guys stole your melody from somewhere else. It's just that technology wasn't developed enough for the other person to call you out. Like, not even the melody that you created, Loving Spoonful, was original. And flattery is most prominently displayed in imitation, right? I always tell people, I'm going to steal that. I'm stealing that. Why? Because it was good. It's good. That was funny. That's really insightful, right? And so when I say it the next time and you're not around, guess who's I am. I don't have to take credit for it. No, death of 1,000 cuts. Or you would die the death of 1,000 oversimplifications. I think I am going to go to North Point State Park and take my camera and just see what I can see. It'd be nice to do that. I'm almost like 40 minutes away from home. So anyway, what's going on with everybody out there? Sorry, there's no development of AI to help me listen to the chat. What's going on, Sean? Sometimes all I need is the air that I breathe and to love you. You know what I mean? Like, again, if you're still here, I still don't understand why you are hesitant to share your philosophy. I just don't get it. Like it's already out there in the ether, bro. Like millions of people already think what you think. It's not original. You don't have an original thought. And yet you won't share it to be evaluated as to whether or not it's original. I mean, it could be, because for right now, I'm going to be like, you don't have an original thought, bro. And if you do, talk about it. Like, let's look at it. Let's talk about it. Like, I mean, that's all what philosophy is, man. Like, it's an idea that changes, that evolves. So then, I would expect and hope that you would share your idea so that it would influence me. Make me think, oh, I never thought about it that way. And then you help me improve myself. And that's why I'm talking out loud, because something that I can say might read your mind and go, oh, like, oh man, I never thought of, like Sean, for instance. Like when I trying to think of, I showed that image and I said that these two boats are on the same plane, and you said, yep, they're on the same plane. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what you're saying. You can't say that. In your world, those two boats are not on the same plane because you live on a curved surface. Each boat is at its particular point, and all of those points are different degrees, and degrees imply curvature or an arc. So if I say those two boats are on the same plane and you go, I agree, I'd be like, you can't, bro. Because what I mean is, that's level, that's horizontal, that's flat. You don't mean that, so you can't agree with me, because I'm not saying the same thing you are. On a note, I have a medley salad made up of beets and carrots and blueberries and cantaloupe, and it has lasted longer than I would have imagined because of the presence of vinegar. Like, I have food that has lasted insanely long periods of time in the refrigerator. I made this lentil soup, and it has turmeric in it, for one thing. Okay, turmeric, a massive preservative. If you want food to last, cook it with or preserve it with turmeric. It'll last for Smurfing ever. Because I made soup like 2 months ago, and I'm like, I don't want to eat it. I don't want to eat it. I don't want to eat it. I ate it last week. It was amazing. 2 months in it. Like, that would spoil if it was something that you bought at the store. There was no growth on it, no bacteria. Anyway, all to say that it's so easy, I think, to, if I'm going to change my diet and away from eating meat, besides, like, say, fish and then dairy products, I'm going to be a vegan, right? Pretty much a vegan, but I'm, still vegetarian. But if I make food that is going to be fresh vegetables and fruit, then I can stretch those meals out for almost a month, right? When I wouldn't have to buy food on a daily basis, whatever, to cook food. Well, I'm just going to be eating. Like, that to me is just like really interesting to realize. But the salad doesn't have turmeric in it. The salad just has vinegar. And the vinegar is a massive preservative. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not I'm going to be able to. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to see those tankers, because from what I remember on the Chesapeake Bay right there, it's right outside the Baltimore Harbor. So the harbor is over to the right, and then you look straight ahead and you can see the Bay Bridge. But the Bay Bridge has this dog lake to the right, and I think that that's probably where all the tankers are going to be. I won't be able to see any of them, I don't think. I'm talking myself out of going to North, but it's a nice little park area. Would be a nice little walk. So I got nobody else in the comments. So is there anybody else out there in the audience right now? Because the last name was by Sean G, and there's nothing there now. Anybody else out there? Hello? We got 2 people watching. If there are 2 people watching, can you have a conversation with each other? Say hello to each other. Introduce yourselves. And Smurfing, invite people. Invite people here to have an intelligent conversation with you. Oh, here we go. A lane change. I got these 2 knuckleheads cleaning up trash on the highway. It's got to be a correctional thing. Eating some pineapple. It is a blue sky day. By the way, I hope you have a blue sky day wherever you are. I think I got distracted about the original idea thing, you know. Everything that I am and everything that I express in every moment is an organic combination of my entire existence. Nothing that I do or say per se is original. But at the same time, it is, because I'm the one expressing it in that moment for the first time. You know what I mean? So if you think about telling a story, if you tell a story about going fishing or going to the shooting range or whatever it is, and you have this story that you recount, every time you tell that story again, it's a different story. It's not the same story. That's you and me on a daily basis. But at the same, okay, so it's not the same story, which then means at that moment it's original. You get me? So my point about the Radiohead thing is that as I am writing comedy sketches for a routine that I would like to eventually perform, I have jokes that are jokes that I've created. And at the same time, I'm going to incorporate jokes other people have created and make them my own. So I'm going to be sampling from Bill Cosby or from Howie Mandel or what, because they have funny jokes and I have had experiences that are similar to that. I can put my own twist on it, but I was given an idea about how to see my situation as a comedic situation. You understand what I mean? If I had seen Bill Cosby tell this joke about this thing, and then I had an experience that was similar to the Bill Cosby comedy routine, I wouldn't have been able to connect those two and then see, oh, I can make my scene, I can do this now. I can make this experience I had comedic because I saw how Bill Cosby did it. You get what I'm saying? Or Jim Gaffigan or Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, okay, look, that's a great point. Last year, when I was doing, okay, hold on, am I in the right spot? I don't think I'm in, no, I'm not. I see what I did. I gotta turn around. So part of the spiel that I started doing on my podcast last year was, this is the podcast about nothing. That's a nod to Jerry Seinfeld. Okay? I am sampling Jerry Seinfeld's humor and using it as a mantra for my podcast. This is a podcast about nothing and everything all at once. Now that's my development. And yet at the same time, that movie came out, Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? You see how I'm not original, and yet my concept now is original? This podcast is the superest podcast that there ever was, because this is a podcast about nothing and everything all at once. I think that's a brilliant marketing mantra. That's memorable. You know what I mean? Hey man, you should check out Trav-EL's podcast. Why should I? Because it's a podcast about nothing and everything all at once. You're like, oh, that's an interesting way to say it. I don't know. I might check that out. Oh, that's just the way I think about it. It's marketing. Is anybody talking? FE Nation, you're still listening? It says that there's 2 people, so yeah, 2 people. It's a lurker. Lurker! Yeah, I got off on the 695 too early. Backwards. I believe we're at quarter moon waxing right now. Which means we have 7 days until full moon. Which 7 days ago was new moon. And today is the 11th maybe? So then the new moon 4th. And I find that the new moon, even though the calendar system is not in line with Luna, the new moon usually falls between 4th and the 8th, within that sweet spot. And I still can't make the observations I want to, because like on a day like today, like it could be clear tonight, and then I'll get a great shot of the quarter moon. But for the past 7 days, it's been cloudy and rainy, and I wasn't able to, track Luna at all, so you have to wait a whole month until it comes back around. All right, well, I'm kind of at a standstill in my brain right now, so I think we're probably going to bounce out of here. So, a needle pulling thread. If you have made it this far and you are listening to the sultry sound of my voice at this moment, you have not liked, you have not commented, you have not shared, what the Smurf is wrong with you? Please do so. Post haste. And I have been your host, Travel Mateus, on this new and exciting adventure of Piensamientos de viejo. Until next time.